This is TJ with TechMadeEZ. Welcome to the channel. My channel is all about making things affordable, practical, and easy. And what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about taking JellyFin, which is very easy to set up on a server today, especially using Docker. But it's not readily available to access it outside your home. So we're going to be setting up a URL to access that out of our home, but we're going to secure that URL and encrypt it with an SSL certificate. So we're going to need two tools to do this. One is DuckDNS, which allows us to have 5 free URLs. And most homeowners don't want to maybe hassle with owning their own URL, but you can get 5 free from DuckDNS. We're going to set that up. Nginx Proxy Manager that allows us to control our traffic coming from our router into our server. Now, we don't have to just do this with JellyFin. We could use it with any web-based application that we have running on our server, whatever that application may be. One of the things we're going to talk about too is Plex does come available to watch videos outside your home, but you have to put in a port into your router. We're going to take that port and put it into Nginx as well to manage that. So all of our traffic is going to be being managed by Nginx Proxy Manager. And we're going to go ahead. It's very easy to set up, especially today. The last 5-6 years, it's very easy for a home user to set up a free URL and have access to anything, any web service outside their home. Now, we are going to be using Docker to do this, but in this case, we're going to be using Casaos. Now, because we're using Casaos, I will show you both with DuckDNS and Nginx on how to set up a Docker file for that as well that you can run in Docker if you're not running Casaos. But let's get started. I realized after I recorded the whole thing that I was using URL a lot instead of domain name. So in this instance, we're going to be creating domain names, but domain names are part of URLs, and that's why I was always saying that. So every time I say a URL, I'm really talking about the domain names that we create for this presentation. Okay, so the goal is we're going to take JellyFin over here on the right, and we want to make it so that we can safely access it outside our home without exposing our own network in our house. So the way we're going to do this, and not only that, we need to have a URL. Now, the goal here is that for a lot of home users don't probably need to buy a URL and then manage that. So the easiest way to do that is to use DuckDNS, which is on the right here. So DuckDNS, what DuckDNS allows you to do, it allows you to have 5 free URLs. So we're going to use DuckDNS to create our URLs. We're going to need a DuckDNS Docker app as well, because that DuckDNS Docker app is going to communicate to DuckDNS what URLs we've created with DuckDNS and what we're using on our server. Then we're going to be using NextGen to control our network traffic. And basically what NextGen is called what they call a reverse proxy. And so when people from outside your internet try to get in, they're going to hit your router first. And so we're going to set up the router so that the router then talks directly to Nginx Proxy Manager. Then Nginx Proxy Manager is going to take that traffic from the internet and it's going to direct it to where you need to go. In this case, we need it to go to JellyFin. Now, this doesn't only work with JellyFin, this works with any web-based application that you may have on your server that you want to have access to the outside world. The only thing that I would recommend is that you have a strong username and password, especially a strong password, so that no one can get into your system. Now, in other words, a lot of people sometimes they will put Nginx and access that from the outside world. Well, you better have a really strong username and password for that, because if they get into that, then they can change things, so on and so forth. An SSL security key, which allows your traffic to be secured. And so we're going to use DuckDNS, NextGen, and then our example here is JellyFin, because a lot of people are moving to JellyFin or running JellyFin as their file servers, and this is a safe way and an easy way to give them access to their JellyFin outside their own network. Now, with Plex has a built-in way to access Plex from the internet. You have to go into your router and you have to put in a port that Plex uses to allow you to access the internet. So it's a little easier with Plex, but you can also route that port into Nginx for extra protection, then have it go to Plex. So we're going to cover that really quickly as well. So now what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing this through Casa, but I'm actually going to show you the Docker file that you'll need to create and run for both DuckDNS and Nginx. We don't need the Docker file for Casa because Casa has built into it the app for Nginx, but it doesn't have built into DuckDNS. So we're going to show you how to do that and import that into Casaos really easily. So let's get started. Okay, so like I explained at the beginning, I'm going to be using Casa to do this, but I am going to show what you need basically to set it up if you're going to be setting it up with Docker without Casa. So let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing we're going to need here, I've got JellyFin here. It's in my house. I can't access it outside my house yet. So the whole purpose of this is so that we can create a URL to access JellyFin from anywhere in the world. But not just JellyFin, anything that we want to have as URL, website, so on and so forth. And this is going to be free. Now again, the reason why we're doing it free is I'm looking at this as the home user. And for me, myself, I don't need to pay for a URL when I can get a free one from DuckDNS. Most people, I would say most home users maybe only need a couple of URLs. And so we're going to go to DuckDNS. When you put in the DuckDNS URL, it's going to come to here, and you want to be at your home on the computer that you're using. And I'm going to sign in with Google. And so when I just hit this, it's going to automatically bring this screen up here. Now, one thing you're going to notice here at the top here, it's going to say token, and I have token. So the first thing that we're going to see here is DuckDNS, but we're going to go down here to token, and I have it blocked out because this is my token that I use in my house. And then I have some URLs that I'm going to block out here as well, because I'm using those as well. So, but what we're going to do here is that if you want a free domain, you just have to type it in here. And so, and you might want to tailor this to your own home, but I'm just going to put in, say, JellyFin, GEL, and then an F. And you're going to check and see if that domain is available. Now, you want to make these as short as possible because you're going to have duckdns.org after whatever name you put in here. So if I hit add domain, that one did come up available, as you can see right here. So we're going to go ahead now, and what we need to do at this point is we need to install the DuckDNS service with our Docker. So I'm going to go here into Casa now. Casaos, if we go in here to the App Store, one thing it doesn't have, if it doesn't have DuckDNS in here as as one of their stored Docker apps. So what we have to do is we have to import this or put this into Casa, and it's going to be about the same process if you're using Docker to do this as well. So what we'll do here, okay, so like I said before, we're going to be putting this in Casaos, but again, I'm going to give you the text that you need to do this in Docker as well. So let's go ahead. So all I did here is I went ahead and copied this information here from the DuckDNS Docker. And so this is all we need to create that DuckDNS. And what I have here is we went ahead and I created a DuckDNS.txt, and these are in my download directory. And so I just wanted to paste this in here to show you that some things are optional. So let's just go through this. So the network host is optional, but I always leave that. The POD is optional. I know that mine is 1000, so I just leave that. The time zone is optional, but I do put my time zone in. And then the subdomain is the subdomain that we just created. So we created this JellyFin DuckDNS.org, so I put that in there. The token is going to be your token when you go to DuckDNS. You're going to paste that into here. I'm going to take these off. I'm going to leave these on here. I want these on here. And then this path here is also optional. Now, in my case, I went ahead and put it in, but again, you don't have to do this one. And so let's take a look at the YAML file. So I just went ahead and put a YAML extension on here. And now, of course, I've taken all those options off. I put in American Denver. Again, this is my subdomain that we just created in DuckDNS. And again, your token goes here. I'm going to leave this here. Now, the one thing that I did here, this said false. I left it as true. And this is my directory data, or this is my directory map that I'm going to be doing this in Casaos. Casaos uses everything. Let's go to Casa here just for a sec. We'll go here. Casa puts all their data under app data, under the root directory data. So I went ahead and created this here. Now in Casaos, if you don't create this, Casa will create it. But when you're running this in Docker, you're probably going to have to create these directories. But I went ahead and created these in here at any rate. So let's just go back then to our text file. So now all we have to do with Casaos is import this. Or if you're running Docker, you can do your Docker up compose command. So let's just go ahead and import this. So I'm going to go ahead in the Casa interface here. I just hit this plus, And that allows me to install a customized app. So I'm going to go ahead and go in here to import, and I'm going to grab this from my download directory, which is right here. So here it is here, and we'll go ahead and submit this. And there isn't anything that we need to really do here, but say OK. We hit install. Oh, one thing we have to do is it doesn't put in the title here, and Casaos is going to need a title. So I'm just going to call this DuckDNS. And then the URL, let's go back to that text file. So in this text file, I actually have the URL to grab that. And so I'm just going to grab this here, put this in here, and then it'll grab the icon. But everything else is ready to go here. My log file is in here. And again, this app data, this was optional, but I went ahead and put that in there. So we just hit install, and now this will install into Casaos. Or if you're using Docker and you hit your Docker up command, it'll run it. Okay, I'm going to go into DuckDNS here for a minute, because the one thing that I noticed is I put in the wrong URL here. So we'll go ahead and put this right one in here. And then on top of that, if you have other URLs that you create with JellyFin, then you can just put a comma, and then you can just put in that URL in right here. And this is important. Subdomains have to go in to this section here, but I'm not going to put those other ones that I have in here. And then I still need to put my token in here. So I'm going to put my token in here, restart this, and then we'll proceed on. Okay, now that we're seated on, now if you're running Casaos, you may want to install Portainer. You just go ahead and go into the store, hit install, put in your username and password, and then you can go ahead and check to see if things are running. So if I go here to my containers, I'm going to go here to my containers here, and I'm going to see that DuckDNS is running, and I can check the log here. That's why we want to have the log done. And so it's gone ahead and checked everything, and everything should be good to go here. Now, if I didn't put in my token, it would have given me an error here, which it did the first time, because originally when I input that in, I didn't put the token in there. So I went ahead and put the token in, and now I don't have any error there. So Portainer is really good. I really like Casaos, but it doesn't give you any tools to look at log files, and Portainer does. And so that's how I use Casaos. I use Portainer to look at my log files. I don't use, I could use Portainer to install DuckDNS as well, obviously those of you that use Portainer, but that's how I'm using that there. So let's go ahead and go back to Casa. All right, so now the next thing that we got to do is we have to install Nginx. Now Nginx is available in the App Store in Casa, but I am going to go over a basic install of it if you're using Docker. And so what we want to do is, here's our Nginx webpage, and again, I'm going to have all these links in the description below. We can go to our GitHub, or we can even go to Get Started. It'll still take us to the same place here. And so we're going to copy and paste. If I go and click on GitHub, it's just going to take me to the same information. I go down here. Before we copy and paste this and create our Docker image file, or our Docker file, what we need to know is about the ports. So Nginx uses 80, 81, and 443. Now there are people that say you can change those, and I know people that do. Some people say you should probably just leave them the way they are. So this is very important. So 80, 81, and 443 are ports that Nginx uses. Now 80 and 443 need to go into your router. And what Nginx does is it's going to replace your port forwarding. So any port forwarding you have available in your router needs to be done now in Nginx. It creates an extra layer of security. But one of the problems is that if you're running Casaos's port, default port is 80. So what you have to do is you have to go to Casaos, and there is a setting in there. I'll show you how to do that. You change that from 80 to any other open port that you have to run Casaos, and then you're going to have to put your IP address and that new port number for Casaos to display in the website. But just remember that 80 and 443 are going to go into your router and point to the IP address of Nginx. So let's go ahead and let's go forward. All we have to do is just copy and paste this in. Now the one thing that you're going to have to do with Casa, we're not going to have to do all this, But when you put this information in here, you're going to have to go ahead and put your volumes in where they exist on your own server. And so if I go into here, into my download directory, or let's see if I have it open in here. I don't have it open here. In my download directory, I've created this Nginx file here, and so this is really all you need to get started. And again, I put my data right here. This is, again, Casaos stores everything under a data directory and app data. But in this case, I don't have to import this, but this is all you would need. I'll have, again, this in the description. I have two different ways to do that. This is one way. This other one, Proxy Manager, also is another option that you can use to get this going. And again, I'll put these in the description below. So that being said, if you have this in Docker, you can just use your Docker rep command to run that. And then, but I'm going to go ahead and install this in my Casaos. And this is where Casaos is really helpful, because I have Nginx here, and so I can just hit install. Now, it's always good for you to read this information up front. It's going to give you information that you need. In other words, you need to set up a username and password, but it gives you a generic one at first. And so we're going to use these to first log in and change our username and password. So we're going to hit next. It's going to take a sec just to install that. Okay, so before we open up Nginx, the one thing I need to go over here with Casaos uses port 80. Now, in order so you don't have to, I like to use Nginx with the defaults that it has set up. So what you have to do with Casaos is you have to change the port. And so I just changed it to a port that's open for me, and so I did port 86. And the way you do that, you go into your settings here. You're going to say change port. Once you change the port, give a port number and submit it, you have to reboot your server for Casaos to accept that new port number. So this is very important. You don't want to leave Casa on 80. It'll conflict with Nginx. Actually, Nginx won't install right if you do that. So you need to change that before you go ahead and install Nginx proxy if you're using Casaos. I should have told you that before. So don't install Nginx proxy until you change the port number for Casa. And then when you launch Casa, you will have to put in this port number. It won't launch automatic. It won't give you the interface automatically without you doing colon and then your new port number. But once you've done that, now we can go ahead and launch Nginx Proxy Manager. And what we need to put in here is the generic examples that they gave us at the beginning. Admin, add example is the original login, temporary login, and then the change me is the other one. If we go here, it'll tell you right here. These are the default username and address, and then you'll want to change those as soon as you launch that. So we're going to go ahead and sign in. And now we're going to, you need to go ahead and put in your own email address here, and then it's going to ask you to change it. And so I'm going to do that now. And we'll come, and then we'll go into Nginx. Okay, so once you've done that, now you can create a host. And so one thing I will mention here is that, let's go back. It uses these ports, but it runs, the URL runs off of port 81. So if you're launching Nginx for the first time, you're going to put your IP address of your server and then port 81. This automatically does this when you launch from the icon in Casaos. But to launch this, if you're using Docker, then you'll need to put in your IP address and then colon and then 81, and then that will get you into it where you change your username and password. So here I am into this, and so now what I want to do, so now we want to be able to use that URL. Now in order to do that, you've got to go into whatever router you have, and you're going to have to change port forwarding. So you want to use your router now wants to point to, you want your router to point to Nginx. And so whatever router you use, all routers are different. You got to go in and find where it says port forwarding, port mapping, and you'll map 80 to this IP address in your router. I have an example here, so here's my router, and I'm using my IP address is 192.168.1.12. So I've got both port 80 and port 443 forwarding to this IP address of my server. So that's what you're going to want to do there. That's very important. You won't be able to use it without doing that. Once you've done that, change your router settings. We're going to go ahead and go to host. We're going to go to proxy host. Oh, actually, before we do that, I'm going to create an SL certificate now for that URL that we created. So we're going to go here to SSL certificates. We're going to add a certificate. Okay, so at this point, what I'm going to be doing, I've been using a test server to do all this stuff because I am running DuckDNS on my own server, and I'm running Nginx on my own home server, along with Plex and JellyFin. So we're going to move over to my home server to finish this out because it conflicts if I don't do that. But I wanted to show you the basic install and setup of DuckDNS, and then a little bit on the setup of Nginx Proxy Manager. But we're going to finish getting our SSL certificates on my main server, and we'll set those URLs up and get access to JellyFin. And just so you know, again, it isn't just JellyFin, it's any website, any web service that you have on your server. You can do this exact same thing too if you want to give it access to the outside world. You just have to make sure you have a really strong username and password. So let's move to my my personal server to finish this, which I am using Casaos as well. All right, so here I am on my personal server desktop running Casaos. Now I'm going to go into the setting of DuckDNS because I want to make sure that you understand this clear. So when you have more than one URL that you're grabbing from DuckDNS, what you do is you go down into here. You'll go into here under subdomains, and you put in your domain here, and then you'll separate it by a comma, and then you'll put in your other DuckDNS domains, as many as you have. And I should mention this as well with DuckDNS. You can have up to 5 free subdomains with DuckDNS, and usually for a home user, that's plenty. And actually, there are a few more that I'm going to be using from there as well. That I have other videos coming up that I'll be talking about. And so that's really how you get. And I have to make one thing clear on why we need to run DuckDNS. Because DuckDNS, you have to put those in there so it knows the domains, what it's looking for. And if your IP address ever changes coming into your house, then DuckDNS will refresh that. And so that way you don't have to have a static IP address from your IP. And then that was a problem. That's a problem with a lot of people that have maybe web servers that are in their home, is they've got to make sure they have a static IP address to that. And there are other options for that as well, where if your IP address changes, that'll change. But DuckDNS, that's why you got to have DuckDNS running in the background, is it has to communicate with your server, so it knows your domains and it keeps your IP address in line with DuckDNS. Now I will mention one more other thing. When you're some YouTubers will change the IP address that DuckDNS assigns to it. You don't have to do that. I don't know why they do that, but you do not have to do that in this section here. You do not have to change this IP address that DuckDNS assigns to it. Okay, so here we are on my home server, and I've already opened up Nginx Proxy server. You're going to notice my IP address is different. It's now the 197 instead of the 212. All right, so here we are on my home server, and I'm running an Nginx Proxy server. Obviously, we're going to go on to SSL certificates. Now I got ahead of myself, and I forgot to record this part, so I'm just going to show you the beginning of this, and then we'll continue. I did record getting the SSL certificate for here, so I just want to show you. I clicked on SSL certificates first. We have not created a host. We have not mapped our URL to our JellyFin server yet. We're just getting the certificate first. So we're going to add our SSL certificate, and it uses Let's Encrypt. So from here, let's just go ahead now and add that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and put in my URL that we just created, and that is jellyfin.duckdns.org. I'm going to add that, and I'm going to agree. Now, some of the people have done this use DNS challenge, and they choose DuckDNS down here. I found that I don't have to do that. I don't know why some of them do that, but if I just go ahead, it'll go ahead and create an SSL for this. So let's just go ahead and save this. And there I have my JellyFin. Now I created my SSL for this. So let's go ahead. Let's go into our dashboard, and let's go ahead and create a host. And we're going to do a proxy host. And so we're going to go ahead and add proxy host. And I'm going to use that URL that we just created. And again, that's JellyFin.DuckDNS.org. We're going to add our URL here. Then we're going to tell it what IP address we were assigning to it. And this IP address, I switched to my other server, and it's 197.168.1.197. And then 8097 is the port. And you can have these, you can keep these on or off. I'm just going to turn it on. Some people say unless you have a big website, caching doesn't matter, but I'm going to block common exploits. And then I'm going to go up here to SSL, and we're going to choose the SSL that we just created, and there it is right there. And so now you don't even have to put these on here. I'm just clicking those on, and so I'm just going to go ahead and hit save. Once we save that, now this becomes our URL to our JellyFin website. I'm going to go ahead and type in my username and password here. And now I have access to my JellyFin through that URL in and outside my home. I'm going to show you on my phone that I can have access to it. Okay, here I am at my phone. I went ahead and put in my JellyFin DuckDNS URL. So let's go ahead and hit that. And I'm just going to go ahead and log in. All right, so I'm logged in now, and if I click on the screen here, it says my connection is secure. So that's all there is to it. So I just hope you made it to the end of this, because I do have one important thing that I need to tell you before we end this video. But I just want to show you how easy it is to grab a URL from DuckDNS and install this service. This has to be running on your server in order for that to work. And then how easy it is to set up Nginx proxy manager. That's how easy it is to get these set up to have access to any web service on your server, whether it's JellyFin or something else. This is TJ with TechMadeEZ. I hope that was helpful. Have a great day. Thanks.
Now that was easy peasy.